This is Craig Wax with Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS-FM, who has the privilege today of interviewing the one and only Jon Anderson, one of the founders of the band Yes from the UK, who's currently touring and doing solo projects. Welcome, Jon.
Hey, how you doing?
Very well. Thank you for making time from your touring schedule to speak with us a little bit. Could we talk a little bit about your history?
Sure.
That'd be terrific. Can you tell us a little bit about how the band Yes came together? It was quite an eclectic group of musicians that changed over 30 to 40 years in performers and things. How did the whole thing get rolling?
Well, I was in London in '68. I'd been with the band for about 5 years at that time. And I was in London just looking for a job, looking for a band to sing with. I tried a couple of bands, but they didn't work out too well. And then I met Chris Squire. I was working in a bar, which was above a very famous club called the Marquee Club. And that bar would have people like Pete Townsend, Jimi Hendrix, Keith Emerson, all these people wandering in and out. And I'd be there cleaning the glasses and sweeping up. And then I met Chris there, and we talked about music. And it just happened that it was the connection that we had about music. And he had a band of musicians, and I went to meet them. And he had a band, it was called Mabel Greer's Toy Shop.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, you've got to shorten the name, for one thing. The musicians were pretty good, and we decided to find another drummer and another keyboard player because we just wanted to expand the band a little bit musically to be able to do jazz and symphonic music. So we found a couple of really talented people. And then we just kept going and rehearsing like crazy, and that's how it worked out.
Well, certainly. How did you get your first record contract for the eponymously named Yes record?
Well, as I said, we had such a long name. I wanted to change it right away, so we decided either World, Life, or Yes. And we thought Yes was a pretty cool name for a band, And we just kept rehearsing, and we got a connection with Atlantic Records. The boss came over from New York, and he liked what we did, so that's how we got a record deal.
Wow. So you put together the album Yes, which was a terrific, new, and engaging progressive style of music, and then second album was Time and a Word?
Oh, yeah. And, from then on, Time and a Word we wanted to do with a full orchestra. We tried it with, some session musicians, which were pretty boring people. They didn't like rock music in those days, classical musicians like small orchestras. And so they came in and we paid them, but they didn't play very well. But the idea was there to sort of make Yes music a little more symphonic in structure and things. So then we moved on to the Yes album and Fragile and Close to the Edge and started doing longer pieces of music using classical structures, the idea of music being so people could listen to it for more than 5 minutes, and it wasn't just endless solos. The idea was structuring the music so people could go through the journey.
Right. Everything that Yes has done seems like it has a color and a feel and a lot of other senses other than just volume.
Yeah, I just like the idea of working with very talented musicians and being able to direct them into different worlds of music. And we were very lucky because the 70s was a very open sort of game, really, because music should be like that. Music should be adventurous, and we weren't being tied by the record company to do hit singles. We didn't want to do that. We just started expanding our ideas and kept going all the way through the 70s.
Right.
And, after so many years on the road, you get tired of each other. So we had a break for a couple of years. And then we started up again with 90125, which was more of a very commercial album, sounding and everything about it was very commercial.
Right, certainly.
Very different. Sorry?
I said certainly, and the guitarist changed from Steve Howe to a newcomer named Trevor Rabin.
Yeah, Trevor's doing film scores these days. He's a very talented guy. And he was very influential on the structure of the album being more radio-friendly. And so the 80s was all about doing sort of radio-friendly music, which isn't an easy job. It's better to be able to just do music that you feel inside, but the majority of the band wanted to just keep going, doing hit records, but it doesn't work out that way.
Right, maybe you can help me with the story I heard when things started to come back together for 90125, that you were kind of doing some different things. I don't remember if that was your Vangelis period or what have you, but you were off doing some different things, and the band was going to come together and call themselves Cinema or something, and then you were asked back or you came back. Was that the story?
Yeah, the record company felt it would sell better as Yes, a better name. Why don't we get the singer of the band to rejoin? And I just happened to be in south of France writing some dance music for ballet and writing music for a movie down there, and I was in a totally different world. But I went back to London, and then Chris played me the music from the album, and I just thought, this is so damn good, I got to sing on it. So 3 weeks later, I put my voice on it. I've written some lyrics and changed some ideas of the choruses here and there, and just added my sort of musical ideas and lyrics and sang it, and then it was a big hit record.
Yeah, it certainly was probably one of Yes's biggest commercial hits as far as things went, but it was a great change from the previous history, as you mentioned, where everything was kind of longer and moody and brought so much to the table, whereas that was kind of more of a pop 305 sort of thing. And 90125, I understand, was Atlantic Records' number for the record.
Yeah. Well, everybody was trying to figure out the name for the album, and I just said, what's the number of the album? And said 90125. I said, perfect, just keep it like that. In fact, it was originally 87323, but they delayed the idea of the release of the album 3 months or something, and then it became 90125.
Wow, which is quite interesting because it's caught on with Yes fans, and I think you got a new generation of Yes fans at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes fans, and interestingly, they started to listen to the older stuff of the 70s, and they really understood that Yes music was like there's a lot of history there. And you get a lot of young people, even now, they'll pick up Close to the Edge and then discover 90125 and discover The Ladder and Talk of the 90s, because some of the music of the 90s was very, very good. And unfortunately, by then, the record companies were falling apart and people were throwing money around, and record companies were really screwing up. There was a lot of bankruptcy going on.
Wow.
And our records at that time suffered, even though there were still good recordings and good music.
Well, I remember when Yes was kind of on hiatus, as they had been a few times in the past, as you mentioned, and kind of came together in a law firm sounding name, Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe, and you guys toured.
Yeah, that was my idea, to do an album with Steve and Rick again, and then Bill was there. So I went to see them, and I started working on the idea of the album, and it was an interesting time because it was very good. I hadn't worked with Rick or Steve for 10 years, and Bill for 15 years, and to get back together was very exciting. So it really worked very well.
Yeah, and it was very, very good to see you guys getting back in touch with your fan base. I remember you actually did some autograph signings in Northeast Philadelphia at the old Doral Catering Hall, which at the time was listening booth wall to wall. And I remember myself and my brother and even my little sister, who's now 34. I just remember because she was petite, small, and young, and in her early teens, I remember specifically that you had said, oh, it's so great for young people to be enjoying our music, and it really seemed that really got a charge into you.
Right. I think it's one of those things, even these days I work with youth orchestras, and I spent the last 4 or 5 years working with the School of Rock from Philadelphia, from New York, from San Diego, San Francisco. You're working with these young kids, and it's just amazing. And they love Yes music. I was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania just a month ago, and downstairs I did my sound check, and downstairs was the School of Rock, and they were doing Perpetual Change.
Wow.
And it was just amazing to hear these young kids really play that music, because the music is still great,
Sure. Well, Perpetual Change is back from the Yes album of autumn 1970, produced by Eddie Offord, and I know because it's probably my favorite Yes work of all time.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that really sticks with you. When you get something in your youth that, you
Of course.
You go to those things when you need them. Certainly.
Right. Well, next year I hope to do a tour with Rick and Trevor. We'll do Perpetual Change, and we'll do Heart of the Sunrise as part of the show.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. In fact, now you're touring and things and bringing your unique vocal style to our area. In fact, you played the Philadelphia area, as you were mentioning, as well as Central Jersey. We saw you in Princeton,
sure,
which was fabulous. And Leo Kottke opened for you, who's a phenomenal guitarist. So it was great to see a great guitarist and a great vocalist and writer, and someone who's as eclectic as you are. It's often been said that you have a falsetto voice, but is that not true? That you just have a high tenor voice? What would you say?
Alto tenor.
Alto tenor. Okay.
Yeah. With a bit of helium thrown in.
There you go, exactly, because a lot of us have tried to sing some of your work in various bathrooms and other echoey places, and it never gets carried off because you've got a very unique voice, John.
I'm very happy. I feel very blessed and thankful, and just keep on doing shows. I'm doing a show tomorrow night here in Woodstock in Vermont. Mm-hmm. Woodstock is a beautiful town.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're enjoying yourself on the road, and a lot of the people are enjoying it. In fact, I had actually had the privilege on the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe tour to meet up with Steve Howe in the hotel he was staying at, and I'd asked him about what he thought of Philadelphia, and his exact quote was, "Philly is really a hub of yesdom." What do you think about that quote?
Yeah, we actually, I think it was about 2003, we got a Yes Day. I think it's the 8th of August. And we went to the town hall, and they proclaimed it Yes Day. And I've got a sort of Liberty Bell sort of monument to that written out. I've got it at home. And Yes has always been, part of the Philadelphia energy. It's amazing there. And people just remember we had some really incredible shows there at the Spectrum, and we love that place.
I'm glad. When we're always happy to have you traveling about and singing with us. Tell us a little bit about the last 10 years in the 2000s. Where did the 2000s take John Anderson?
Well, we carried on touring. 2001, 2, 3, and I think it became too much touring and not enough creation. Rick was in the band for 3 years, and we didn't do any recording, and that really, I don't know, it just maybe got me confused, and then I started getting sick, so I had to leave the situation of touring with the band, and then as it would happen, I started working with the young kids, and it wasn't hard work at all. It was more fun. And I think that's what I was missing, just the fun of making music. And then 2008 came, and I've been sick for about 2 or 3 years, and doctors couldn't diagnose it. But then I got ill for a whole long period, and my wife Jane saved my life so much on so many levels.
Wow.
I didn't sing for a while, so by the time 2009 came, I couldn't wait to start singing again, and I have a new album out now called Survival and Other Stories. And really, it's a recollection of these last 3 or 4 years, and I'm working with people via the internet. So musicians send me music, and I'll write a melody and a lyric, and there we have a song. And that's what I've been doing for the last period of time, is working on many different ideas musically. And it's like the door is opened on many levels. So I'm pretty excited about everything.
And in your current shows, it seems like you're kind of one man, a voice, and a guitar.
Sure.
And I think you described yourself as a strummer.
That's all I need at the moment.
Right. I think
but
you had. Go ahead,
I do
John.
have plans to work with people next year, so we'll see how things develop.
Certainly. And so you have plans to get back with some of your previous colleagues?
Well, I'm working with Rick this October, November. We're going to play near Philadelphia. In fact, we're playing at the Keswick Theater, I think.
Keswick, great.
And, yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And then next year, hopefully with Trevor. But we'll see what happens because, life is an adventure. You never know what's going to happen.
Right. What's the you've always been thought of, I think, in fans' minds as sort of a cosmic, sort of plugged into the earth and universe sort of forces kind of guy. What would you say your philosophy is and your driving force, John?
Well, we're all spiritual beings, and I just like to sing about it. And we're all connected to Mother Earth, and we all know that. It's something we know deep inside, and I just like to sing about it. And that's what happens. You look around, and I'm just sitting here in this beautiful park, sitting here with my wife Jane. We're by the river. There's mountains just up to our left, and full of so many trees, and it's just incredible. Life is just so incredible, and nature is so beautiful. And I'd advise everybody to get out there in nature as much as you can. I know people get stuck in the cities and whatever, but get out in nature and see nature and just wander around. It's just so beautiful out there.
So your inspiration is nature and natural forces and just kind of taking it all in, and it inspires you?
Yeah, well, we're connected to Mother Earth. We are part of Mother Earth, so we have to look after our home, and that's what we're going to be doing in the next years to come, looking after the Mother Earth, and that's what I sing about.
Right, absolutely. Are there any other things that inspire you, John?
I think that's about it.
Oh, great. Can I just ask you to do a promo, John, before you go?
Sure.
All right,
problem.
Great. If you just want to say something like, "Hi, I'm John Anderson, one of the founders of Yes," and you're listening to the music that matters on Rowan Radio, 89.7 WGLS FM?
No, it's too much.
Okay, well, I tried to have it texted to you by your guy, but if you just want to announce yourself saying you're listening to the music that matters on Rowan Radio, is that okay?
How do you say it? What's the name of the radio?
Rowan, ROWAN, Rowan Radio.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the music that matters.
Hi, this is John Anderson, one of the founding members of Yes, and you're listening to Rowan Radio.
Thanks, John. I certainly appreciate you spending time with us, and when you come around to a show, we'd love to meet you formally. My name is Craig Wax, and it'd be a privilege indeed.
Excellent. I wish you well.
Thanks. You and your wife as well. Thanks, John. Be well. Bye.
Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.